My guest is a stand-up comedian, cast member of the Brooke and Jeffrey Show and Moving 92.5. As a comedian, he's been featured on Fox, USA, and NBC. Excited to welcome Jose Bolanos.
Yay! Can I clap for myself?
You can do whatever you want, buddy.
What's up, Adam?
Dude, it's been a long time coming getting you on here. I'm excited.
We literally been trying this for like 6 months almost, I feel like, since like late last year.
Yeah, you had some family stuff going on.
Yeah.
Everything's better now?
Everything is so much better now, dude. My mom was really sick, just to be as vague as I can be.
Yeah.
My mom was really sick, but now it's
and her address is what?
Yeah. But her, she's doing great, dude. And like, yeah, in a couple weeks, she's like officially going to be done with all her treatments and everything. And so, I mean,
that's awesome.
Yeah, but
that's great.
So
news.
things are doing good now. I'm glad to be here.
It's weird having you on here because I know how much experience you have in radio. So like you got the mic where it needs to be. You're comfortable, and so some people come over here and they're like,
what do I do? Yeah. Well, I also know my voice is really loud. So like in our radio show, my microphone is special.
Yeah. Just like cut back quite a bit.
Yeah. Well, they literally had somebody come in from New York to tune our mics, and it turned out to just be like my mic. They flew some specialist out because I'm so loud. And when I laugh, it's even louder.
Is that the natural laugh too? Is that like God-given laugh?
Well, it is. And I think it's developed, if that makes sense, like over time. I've always had, like, if you've ever heard my dad laugh, it's the same. His is just slower. He's like, and like, as I grew and grew, it got older, I literally just started just like faster, I guess.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people used to say, like, is that fake? Is that your real laugh? But legitimately, like, if I've ever posted anything about my dad, or if you've ever met my dad, you're like,
there it is.
That's it. Like, all my childhood friends always have my back. They're like, no, that's how he sounds. I do have a couple laughs, though. If I'm like really going nuts, just like anyone, I kind of just like, you know.
Yeah. The dryness of it too.
Yeah, but
that's funny, man.
Well, it's crazy because I always tell people, like, I grew up getting made fun of for my laugh. It wasn't like the number one thing to be made fun of. There's a lot of things about me to make fun of. but I do remember, I was getting looks and stares and whatever. And I always thought, especially when I first got my audition in radio, I truly was like, they're not going to hire me because of this laugh. Once they hear me laugh, they're going to go, oh God, dude, that's awful. Like, you're distracting, But I remember being told after I laughed a couple times during my audition, we were off the air, and I was like, I'm so sorry, guys. Like, I hope I didn't blow it. Like, and they're like, no. If that's your laugh, don't hide it. And then after a while, I think you get used to it. And then it became like a part of the show.
Yeah, a signature.
It's what I'm known for.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. Well, before we dive into stuff, I just want to say, if you're watching this on YouTube, hit that like button, share, subscribe, hit the notifications bell so you don't miss our upcoming content. And then we are on Patreon, patreon.com/FNFpod. So we met doing one of your shows at a theater because you do stand-up too, Jose and Friends.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I do now. If I do comedy, I'm really focused on streaming now because I personally think that's the future of entertainment. Not just comedy, not just video games, like literally everything. Like in the future, quote me on this, you heard it here first, like every category. Right now, people do sleep streams where they literally sleep and they make money. People come and watch them. I feel like people like to watch like what they want to do. Like if you're at work and you'd rather be playing video games, you could literally be watching somebody stream video games on a tab. Yeah. And it's almost like relaxing. Whatever game you want to see. You can
and people just like watching people play video games too. Like they like seeing how you do it versus how they do it.
Exactly.
It's like gaming porn.
Yeah, really, yeah. It's like, let me see Fortnite compilation.
Yeah, and then the speed runs and all that shit for like old games.
Exactly. There's all kinds of it. Like, so if you want some nostalgia, you can go watch some Super Mario Brothers, or if you want to watch the newest game that just got released and some streamers playing it on day one, you can. I mean, there's people that are like, oh my God, I can't wait to get home and play Diablo 4. Let's see what the streamers are doing right now
for sure.
Before I can crack it open myself.
And there's all kinds of weird streaming too. Like, have you ever seen the guy that's in a cage?
No, but this is what I'm talking about. Dude, I just learned yesterday there's a new, oh my God, NPC streaming where you act, so NPC stands for non-playable character. They're like the robotic, like, things in any game, they're like walking, like you're playing
Oh,
Zelda,
gotcha.
you're walking
Yeah.
around a village and someone's just like, hello.
Just
And like bumping into stuff in GTA.
yeah.
People are starting to do that and make money on TikTok. Like I saw 2 to 3 girls, somebody in my stream last night told me, and I Googled it, and they literally make money and for like an hour straight, stay in character and just like looking at the camera, I liked it. And like they'll cut their own sentences off and stuff. And then like someone will feed them, like they'll tip them, right? Like $20 and say, I just gave you a banana. And then they'll act like an NPC and be like, banana. I like banana. And it's like the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, why would you
People are making hundreds, if not thousands of dollars doing this per stream, dude.
Okay, so
So
you
the
think
internet's
this
weird.
is the future?
I think that like literally the internet, streaming is going to be the future, even with comedy, but I like the hybrid that I do. Of course, I like what I do. For me, it's still really hard to watch like stand-up comedy in streaming form when it's like, hey, what's up, virtual room? My name's blah, blah.
Yeah.
Now, I still think that's going to take off, and I think it'll be a thing.
I think VR will be.
Yeah.
I think
yeah,
there
that's
will be
true.
some version of VR when whoever like is the first person to get to VR and stand up and do it well to where they can actually like
It's
if
doing
you
it
can
well
do-
is the key too.
Well, they're doing VR for live sporting events. So you can go to like sit at the sidelines of the Seahawks and watch the game and have that virtual experience.
That's amazing. See, I haven't even thought of things like that.
Yeah.
I just know for me, pardon me, it depends. Like, some streams you can make $50 and other streams you can make $500.
Yeah.
And in my head,
How much skin do you show?
yeah. Oh, I'm all hot tub streams. I have a hot tub in my apartment, and no, I'm just kidding.
Just a bottle of lotion and you in the hot tub.
People are like requesting refunds as I take clothes off. They're like, wait a minute, give me my $20 back. But the whole point we started is, so that's what I focus on now. I like the fact that I don't have to travel around the country. Or even locally, like I don't have to drive an hour, go, even if, don't get me wrong, especially once you become a headliner, which I was, it makes it worth your while. You're making at least a few $100s, even if it's a shitty bar gig. So it's paying for your gas and your food and your time. And it is fun to fly around and travel. But I really like to just chill and vibe. And so I tried to bring to my stream all the impressions that I do on stage and the characters I do on the radio show. And you can actually request impressions from me while I'm playing a game. I thought, look, the reason people watch streamers are for two reasons. They're either 90%, maybe 80%. It's because this person you're watching is so much better than you at the game. Like you could never do what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, what's up? My name's Clicks. I'm the number 10 Fortnite player in the world. And they're doing 360 no scope snipes. And you're like, I could never do that. It's wildly entertaining just because you're in awe.
Yeah. And you want to learn and like, you
Yeah.
can just see it's a professional.
Exactly what you said. Like, oh, this is what he did. That's genius. I would never think to use this as a this or whatever.
Yeah.
Or it's entertainment. And there's very, very, very few streamers that are doing both. That's like, you're either an all talk, you just talk every stream, or you play video games. But it's hard to get entertainment while you're doing it. So for me, I thought, how fun would it be if someone could go and pay $5 and be like, I want to request Arnold Schwarzenegger. And so for the next 3 minutes, I'm playing Fortnite and I'm like, yeah, this guy's hiding in the bush. Everyone get down, and I'm like in character, but I'm still playing the game.
Yeah.
So you kind of get both. So that's what I like about my stream.
Is it growing pretty well? Like, have you been doing well with it?
Yeah, I have the benefit of the radio show. Our radio show is national. So we're in over 50 cities and even in Canada. So we have I think over 3 million people a month that download our podcast.
Damn.
And so if I'm ever able to mention it on the show, I always get an uptick, even if it's like 50 people of followers. So like Twitch, I got up to like 3,000 followers within my first few months just because I was able to mention it on the air. So
And are you doing those like raid parties or whatever where you go and raid other people's channels?
Yeah, but I tend to raid my friends' channels.
Yeah.
But right now I'm also on Kick, which the whole thing, Kick just pays more. Like Twitch was a monopoly. Now Kick is really taking a chunk out of their streamers because they pay you 95% of your subs, and Twitch only pays you 50%. So if you buy a sub on Twitch, I only get like $2.80. If you buy that on Kick, it's $4.74. Doesn't seem like a lot, but when you gift 10 subs,
Yeah, it's just a volume business.
it absolutely, like, I probably made an extra maybe $800 to $1,000 with the same amount of subs just being on Kick.
Yeah.
So it's like trying to balance with both.
What are you playing?
Huh?
What are you playing?
So I play Fortnite mainly because it's one of those games where you can like kind of just talk and chill and vibe. And then I'm always working on like a separate game. Like I have beat like Harry Potter, or, you know, I've beat
All these kid games.
Dude, literally though, but like I'm a kid. Like that's what I like. I play sports games very rarely. I love sports games, but I tend to do that off stream more.
Is it always on PC?
So
Do you have to?
I play on my PlayStation 5, but it's all connected to a PC, so I can stream and manage my stream and everything. Kind of like how you have now my camera. I have my camera here.
Yeah.
I got my microphone right here next to me.
Have you fucked with the Steam Deck at all?
No, but everyone's been telling me I need to do that.
One? Here, hold on.
Maybe,
Let me grab it.
show me. Whoa, dude, no, this is not what I was thinking of.
Yeah, you need to get one of those.
Oh my God, for airplanes, dude?
It's okay.
This looks
so
amazing.
It's basically the same thing as a Nintendo Switch, but it's a full PC and all the Valve games are on there.
And this is some high quality porn you're watching
Dude,
here, bro.
it's incredible.
Wow.
You get all the, POV stuff.
Yeah, I could see inside of her. I mean, him, but shh. No, for real though. I mean, the graphics are phenomenal too.
Yeah.
You're playing like
everything,
NBA 2K here.
and then those two, like the strips right here, these are mouse pads.
Oh my God, and I can
You can
feel
play
the
full,
sensors.
Yeah, you can play like a full PC game on there.
Dude,
It's
I
crazy.
need to invest in one of these.
Yeah, it's $350.
Dude, I need to invest in one of these because I always say I want to get a Switch for plane rides, but that looks like even more in depth, and I could actually still play the games.
You can play Elden Ring on this.
Dude, that's
and Grand
sick.
Theft Auto 5 and shit. So I went to Vermont to see my family. I beat. It's a crazy long trip. Like 9 hours of travel with like 3 hour time difference.
Yeah.
I beat like 60% of Grand Theft Auto 5, which
On
is
the plane?
that's a huge game.
That
Like
is
I
a
was just
massive
sitting
game.
and it's like 8 hours of battery life.
I
It's
bet people are
crazy
looking
good.
at you because how funny is it? You're just like hijacking planes in Grand Theft
Oh,
Auto
it's-
and like
it was-
crashing them, and
yeah,
people next
just,
to you are like,
beating up prostitutes and shit. Like you're like, what am I? There were a couple things like there's graphic stuff in that game. I had to
Yeah.
like turn it away.
you can
from
like
the person
legit
next to me.
have sex with prostitutes in that
Oh,
game,
yeah.
and the
Yeah.
car's rocking and everything.
Exactly. Yeah,
That's
it's
awesome.
ridiculous, man. Okay, so we were talking about streaming and like you doing theater shows and stuff. Are you gonna keep doing those? Or are you?
So the pandemic, I blame the pandemic. The pandemic switched everyone's lives in a way. And I feel like the pandemic kind of brought out my introvert more than I ever thought. I realized I don't necessarily like we were saying, the travel. And this may sound lazy, but like the practice, like doing show after show after show, working on one joke, perfecting it. I mean, it is a craft. It's an art, which we all respect. Absolutely. And it takes a lot of work. And with streaming, it's like 90%, 95% improv, which I also already have that skill built in because of years of comedy and doing radio. So I feel like it translates so much better. And I think also, if we're going to get real, I'm sober now for over 3 years. And for my 10, 11, actually it's maybe almost 13 years will be this year in comedy. I was always drunk, you know? I mean, it's like part of it goes one of the same.
It's a hard thing not to be.
Yeah, and you get free drinks and people are sending me shots. And of course, when you're an alcoholic, I just fucking had no limit. So, but eventually that started turning into anxiety. My last year or two doing comedy.
I can't imagine drinking because I stopped drinking 12 years ago.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
And I always saw people drinking and doing stand. I'm like, man, that's such a delicate line to be on. Because if you have a couple too many, you want enough to take the edge off, but not more than when you dump the show.
And I remember my last maybe 2 or 3 gigs. I remember doing Spokane Comedy Club, Looney's in Colorado Springs. I headlined there, five shows one weekend, sold out. It was amazing. But for me, it became hard to what do I do during the day? Like
dude,
I would wake up and I'm like hungover and I literally was like, I need a drink. Like when you're physically, you know what it's like. Like I literally need a drink. So it's like trying not to drink too much during the day, but getting a little bit drunk enough where I feel normal and then getting to the club. And I think like
it's hard enough to do sober.
Yeah.
Like 5 shows over a weekend is it takes a toll on you. So to be doing that like while drinking during the day and all that, I mean,
I was starting to puke before I got on stage. And that's when I started to realize, like, I was like, okay, look, I'm hungover still. I've been barely drinking. And it was more of a mental thing, but in my head, I'm like, look, I'll feel so much better if I throw up. So I remember like making myself throw up before I get on and then being
I'm laughing because I know the logic completely.
You know what I mean? Alcoholics logic. And then I'm like, yes, I puked. I feel better and I can start drinking again. Now it's like I have 0 drinks in me. And so then.
What was your drink?
I love vodka because a doctor once told me that if I'm in a drink, vodka has the least amount of calories. So in my head, I thought I was being healthy by just drinking fucking tons of vodka.
You would have fucking been crushing White Claws then, right?
Oh, I would have. I never actually have drinking a White Claw.
Neither.
Yeah, and so but I bet I would have. I liked vodka Sprites, on stage.
White Claw's vodka, right?
It's some kind of malt liquor. I don't know if it's vodka, but I think it's like similar.
It's crazy that it's malt liquor and it's that popular.
And it's so tasty. Like people love the mango and the black, whatever the heck, blackberry or whatever it is. But for me, it was that. And then also on my health kick, when I wasn't on stage, I would have ordered these if they were available. I drink vodka and Gatorade. Because in my head, I'm drinking Gatorade. I'm going to help my hangover. I'm getting electrolytes in me. And it's also so sweet. And then, of course, being a diabetic, that's awful because there's so much sugar in
You're
Gatorade.
diabetic, too?
Yeah, I'm a type 2 diabetic.
Christ.
So I'm putting all this sugar. And that's also, if you look at old pictures of me, I've lost so much weight.
Yeah.
Just because every day putting in all those calories, all that sugar, it was really bad for me. So I blame the pandemic because I got sober right before the pandemic started. And that's when I realized, like, hey, I like being sober. And that's when I discovered streaming. Like, I watched streamers and I loved it. And I thought I could bring something to the streaming world that's like really, really good. So now, like, I don't have, of course I miss it. I miss like getting a good laugh on stage. Like nothing beats that. That's where the high comes from.
Definitely.
It's hard to do. And I think that like if us as comedians and entertainers, if we can sculpt a joke in our head and you can say it to 200, 300 people and they all just die laughing, it's like amazing.
Yeah,
it's like
I had one of those last night because Fahim Anwar's in town right now.
I love Fahim. I've opened for him before.
Yeah,
he's amazing.
I have
he's
never
at Laughs
worked
right
with
now, right?
He's at Laughs and like
he's brilliant, dude.
I've heard about him for years. I read about him on the internet
He's a beast.
before I like got into comedy. And I had one of those moments where I was like, I got to try this new joke last night. It was a late show, but it worked. And it's just, that to me is like that first time you get that joke to work. It's insane.
And like when you're trying to go to sleep at night and you can't stop thinking about it.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, oh, that was so fucking
or
fun.
when it goes bad.
Yeah.
God, I got to do everything differently in my life.
Yeah, totally. So I miss the high of live entertainment, but that, because when you do radio, it's like, I'll say funny shit and like someone will text in immediately or they'll comment on a social media post and be like, when you said this today, that was hilarious.
Yeah, but it's not the instantaneous.
And you can't feel that energy.
For sure.
There's an energy in the room, human to
two-way
human
communication.
Yeah. And again, it's like you'll have consultants or you'll have your bosses go, hey, 2 months later when the ratings come out, dude, this segment destroyed it. You were hilarious. Good job on that phone tap. And so it's not the instant gratification so what I'm trying to say is
it takes that long to get like the feedback or just the ratings?
There's two kinds of ratings. There's a thing called an M score where like people have actual meters in their car so you can get a general sense of what people are doing. And that takes like a week or two to get meters after you've aired something.
Okay.
And then your actual like ratings, we have a monthly rating system through Nielsen, just like TV. And there's the quarterly, which is the most important for people because your bonuses and your literal salary all is like dependent on that quarterly hour. Are we winning in this demo? We number one in this quarter, or nowadays they like to do your average quarter hour. They want to make sure there's a certain amount of people listening. Like they almost don't care if you're number one. If you have 100,000 people listening on average,
That's
hey,
what they're
whatever
going
you're
for.
doing. Yeah, you have the most people listening to you at once, and that's all that matters.
When did you start doing radio? What year?
I think 2011.
And has it changed substantially since you got into it?
I would say yes. I think that like old school radio is like a morning show. Like morning show is way different than just typical radio. You could be a jock talking up songs and it's like a whole new different beast. Most regular jocks have no idea how to produce a morning show, how it works, and how much effort it does take. It takes a whole team. We have like 8-9 people on our show.
Yeah.
It's not just the 4 people on air. We have multiple producers, editors, social media.
What's your role?
So my role is I'm called the third mic in radio. So it's like Brooke and Jeffrey are number 1 and number 2. And then I'm number 3. I am the reaction guy. Just naturally. That is not something I've ever been coached. I just, as you know me, you could show me something. You just showed me something and I'm like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
Like I'm just a very reactive, over the top person. And also that
you were as soon as you came in here today too. Yeah, it's just your natural state.
That's just how I am. And same with my laugh. Like, so if something's funny or kind of silly, I mean, I'm like a natural, I don't want to call it a pity laugh because I do find a lot of things funny.
Yeah, you're expressive.
But I'm very expressive.
Yeah,
That's
you're the opposite of me.
Yeah, literally, bro. So, I'm relied on really. My job now is different what it used to be. When I first got on, I was just auditioning, and I was like stunt guy in a diaper doing crazy shit,
Yeah,
which is
I saw
old
a couple
radio.
of those.
Yeah.
The Ninja Warrior video of you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they would have, hey, let's get the chubby guy to go do the Ninja Warrior fucking thing. And and it's always stuff that I hate. Again, I'm also a big pussy.
Yeah.
I don't like bugs. I don't like extreme sports. I don't like skydiving. I don't like anything. So it actually worked against me because they, if nothing fazed me, they probably wouldn't have me do all these stunts.
For sure. It was that you were bad at them and you didn't want to be doing it.
They put live crickets in my diaper one time.
Oh,
and I'm scarred for life from that. But it was probably the funniest, most memorable thing. People still mention to me. They're like, oh my God, I remember that when they fucking put live crickets in your diaper. And I'm just like,
they fear factored you.
But as we developed, our show has developed, what rates better is a lot more relationship stuff. We do things like second date updates, and prank phone calls will always be funny in radio. That's just something you can listen to and just laugh at. It's like mindless.
You've heard the John Cena thing, right?
Which one?
The John Cena like prank call thing.
No, I don't. Maybe
I'll show it to you afterwards.
Okay.
It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
Do they use like a soundboard of his voice?
It's a combination of soundboard and just like a prank phone call.
Okay.
And it's just all these John Cena intro songs, and like they just keep hammering this. Like, that thing. It's hilarious. Dude.
Yeah, and so I think those are always going to be a part of radio, but it has become, and thankfully our show at least has become a little bit less stunty, less like, oh, we're going to pie someone in the face today. Tune in. Like, I think people don't like that. They're not invested in that. But what you are invested in is when we talk about relationships and we have a listener on the phone who genuinely needs help, which we normally, we kind of like, we don't make fun of the listeners at all, but we always bring light. We're a funny bunch.
Yeah.
So even if someone's like, yeah, well, I don't know why she's not calling me back. And then you find out it's like, dude, the guy like farted 10 times and hotboxed the car, like, and we can just clown on this guy. He's like, well, I didn't think you'd notice. And, it's almost like people are just like, well, they want to text in and go, no wonder,
Of course.
or they just want to help. Everybody wants to help everybody, It's like, you're going
what
to
are
give the
the
advice.
hours for you? Like, are you just, because isn't that the craziest part of that job?
Yeah. You never get used to it. So technically, they want us in at like 5:45. It used to be different. We are not necessarily live anymore to start the show because we're syndicated so many places. We have to send out our segments like a day before. That way, everyone in the country on different time zones can press play at the same time.
Yeah.
So we can say, hey, tune into this phone tap tomorrow at 7:20. It's brand new. We have to get that phone tap to Chicago and to Jacksonville, Florida, all the day before. So at 6:20 in Jacksonville, or 7:20 in Jacksonville, they hit play, and Seattle can also hit play. So
that must be a little bit better, right?
It is,
so
because I roll in around 6 now, like 6:15, and I get in a lot of trouble. My agent has texted me several times, like, dude, you need to fucking get to work on time. But the good thing is I'm not missing live breaks, you know, and so we still get everything done, and we work like 9-10 hour days. We work differently than most morning shows, though. Again, a lot of morning shows, especially the ones that don't work or don't win, they come in at, 5:30. They read some national prep sheet. So they're going to talk about what the whole nation's talking about, which we also will get topics about it. But
for sure,
they have radio prep sheets where some of these shows will literally word for word just read off of a prep site. And it's just not creative. You know what I mean? Like, we'll take the topic and we'll make it our own, which is why it's good to have producers and writers and people that can go, hey, what if you presented it this way or did something a little better? So we have a crazy recording schedule, though. Like, we truly do, especially when we're not getting stuff done. Like, when you're trying to do a second date update and it fails, or a phone tap and it's not good, you have to try to do 4 or 5 in a day. Things like that. It sucks. But also everything we do is edited. So it fits a time slot. People think we do these phone taps live. Hey, call her right now. She's getting in her car. And we're like, dude, we can't do that. Like, we also have to get permission legally from people to air stuff.
For sure.
So you can't just like call someone on the fly and whatever. But
what's your favorite thing to do? Like, what favorite type of segment?
Absolute favorite thing to do on the show is doing impressions in the phone taps. So for a long time, there was another host, Jubal, and he did all the phone taps, and he did all these characters, and they were like funny. But in my head, as a comedian who does tons of impressions on stage, I always knew, and so did Jubal. He always had faith in me. I always knew that I could do those impressions, every impression he could do, and more. In my head, I'm like, dude, I could totally do this, but the whole show was kind of based around him for a long time.
Yeah.
And so once he left, got fired, but once he left, that opened the door for me to not just be a laugh guy. I was the only comedian on the show after that. And all of a sudden I was with Brooke and Jeffrey, who have radio experience. Well, Jeffrey didn't have any on-air experience, not much. And it literally opened a door for me to be like the funny guy. So even earlier when you asked, hey, what's my role? It's literally like, say something funny and then back out and react. So it's like, I try not to talk or overpower anything, but like, if I make 3 comments in a segment, they should be kind of funny or like a funny angle that I'm thinking of. So it's like, we're talking, I'm like reacting, I'm laughing off of what they're saying most of the time. And then boom, I say something funny and then I back out,
Gotcha.
And that's what the producers will tell me. It's good to have a producer who's like, I have so much energy.
Yeah.
And
how
I'm
do
so
you
loud.
keep that with being at 6 o'clock in the morning and just coffee?
I drink like, so we have like a coffee machine that you can choose like weak, medium, or strong.
Yeah.
And I literally try to do weak and medium, and because you can like see through it. It's so weak, but I just am constantly drinking coffee. Like, I'm addictive personality. So
for sure.
I probably drink like 1 cup of coffee or once every hour or 2 hours. Like, I'm just always sipping on coffee. So, and I take a lot of naps.
Yeah, that helps too.
Yeah, it totally helps.
Yeah, I'm like feeling that, because last night was just a late night, and I'm like, I record usually on Saturdays, and it's just like fucking.
Even
I'm
today,
like,
you're a little...
dude, it was just up too late, and like it was worth it, like it was a good night. But then I'm like, I just don't know how you consistently do that.
Well, it was hard when I was doing comedy. When I first got my audition, dude, I was a server still. So I was serving at nights from like 5 to 9. Then I would leave my shift and I would try to catch the late show at like 10 or 10:30, do a guest spot at Tacoma Comedy Club before it became what it is now, and before they had the second location even. Like, this was like a hole in the wall. It was, and I would go there, but I lived close, so that's always been my home club. But yeah, I would be at the comedy club till 11:30 or midnight, and then I would get 3 hours of sleep, 4 hours of sleep, and drive to the show and audition. So.
Yeah. Dude, we're lucky in this region with what we got for clubs. Like I did the new Tacoma room last weekend.
How is it, man? I still haven't been.
It's so much fun, dude.
Really?
Yeah, it was a killer show. Like Tori Ward, Scott Lossy, and
love Scott Lossy, dude.
I've never seen him do an hour. It was really fucking good.
Nice. Yeah. He is like just a genuinely nice guy, and he's one of those people that has that style of comedy. I appreciate any comedian that can't be emulated. Oh, yeah. Like, I could never do his jokes on stage and get a good laugh. Oh, yeah. And he probably could never do my jokes on stage and get a good, you know what I mean?
Dude,
like,
he's got some
he's
fucking,
unstealable.
Yeah,
One of my favorite Scott Lossy jokes is when he talks about getting stoned and holding the hammer. Have
Oh
you seen
yeah,
that?
yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my God.
I saw that this weekend for
Just
the first
a
time.
brilliant like misdirection almost.
For sure.
Like it's so subtle and it makes so much sense. I love structure like that.
Yeah, man, it's great. I started up here at Tony V's, and then I got in at Laughs, and that's my home club. And
and Laughs is great.
Dude, it's fun.
I'm one of the few people, especially back when the Parlor was around, before your time, I think.
Mm-hmm.
There is beef between Laughs and the Parlor, and of course, Tacoma Comedy Club and Laughs have always like gotten along. The owners, I mean, they're always cool. They're cool. But
There's so much drama that exists in a regional.
I was lucky though to be friends with all three and be able to be booked by all three.
Yeah.
Because there were a lot of comics that were like, hey, if you perform with the Parlor, you're not going to. And this is when Laughs was in Kirkland, so they were like battling it out.
Yeah,
a lot of people would say, hey, you kind of have to make a choice, and
Yeah.
that's not just a Seattle thing. I think that's a national
for
comedy club thing.
Yeah, there's improvs and funny bones and all those.
Yeah,
different
it's
things,
like, oh, if you're an improv comic, then you're not going to be here at the Laugh Factory or whatever until you get big enough.
Yeah, and then
then it's like
they want you there.
Yeah. Okay, Kevin Hart. Yeah, you could do a fucking triple dip tonight at all three of our clubs in LA, and
For
you're
sure.
good.
And I think everything you're talking about too is changing that game. Where like, dude, if people start figuring out VR comedy where they don't need venues,
Yeah,
that's gonna really disrupt a lot of shit.
But I also think there's always going to be a market for live comedy.
I agree.
It's almost like radio. Like I would compare it to this. Like radio, there was a million national shows before the pandemic, or not national shows. There's a million local shows for the pandemic. You could go to freaking Arkansas and it's like, hey, this is buckwheat and weasel tooth in the morning.
Yeah.
You know,
Dude, that's what we need to do. Me and you move there.
if you're weasel tooth, I'll be buckwheat. Anyway, but like, radio companies would pay these guys like 50, 75, 100 grand each, depending on how good they are, for that show, right? And every local market, and they say live and local, live and local. Well, the pandemic kind of took all the money out of radio for a while. Now it's like heavily back.
It's
Actually, just like how the stock market kind of has bounced back and everything, there's more cars on the road now than there was before the pandemic
And that's the number one driving factor. No
you
pun
want
intended.
cars on the road, exactly. Like you literally need people to be listening. But what happened was so many local personalities and things got shed that now you have mainly national syndicated shows like ours. I'm a very lucky person to be in the position I'm in. Those are the shows.
You just re-signed a contract too, right?
And we just signed a huge deal. I just signed like a 4-year deal, bro, and it's
Congrats
like crazy.
on that,
Thank
buddy.
you, man. I appreciate it. And it's because people just want funny. So if you're already a well-produced show, now we can syndicate you to Arkansas. The station's only going to pay like, I'm making up numbers, but I'm assuming 20, 30 grand for our show as a package. And we get a tiny percentage of that.
Yeah.
We get a percentage of the ad money and of like a salary, but that's really it. It's very cheap. So instead of spending $150,000 on buckwheat and weasel tooth in the morning,
They just pay
you're
for that
spending like
product.
30 to 40 grand to syndicate Brooke and Jeffrey in the morning. So you still have a need for radio because people like radio.
Yeah.
And it is different than a podcast. It's very similar, but to be in your car, to be, in the driving experience, or we also have a podcast, which we do, which is very successful as well.
Yeah.
But to have both, like, it's almost like there's a want for it, still.
There's
it's
like
just
a
rare to
habit
have
to
now.
it too, like that habitual, like
it's
I drive
part of
in the
your
morning.
routine.
It's part of your routine,
Dude, and those are the people that I love to meet the most, that they'll say, I think that's why radio is so personal, because you grow with people in radio. Literally, I'll get people that, even if you've only listened for 4 years, they'll go, dude, I started listening to you when I was in high school and now I'm in college. They feel like they've grown up with you.
and they'll bring up segments from years ago.
Yeah,
and shit.
I remember when you had crickets in your diaper.
Yeah.
I remember your first contract signing when you cried on air. Like, they've been through life moments with me, and with other members of the show. And so anyway, I feel like there's still like there's always going to be a need, especially the rarer it gets. You know what I'm saying? So the VR comedy, I feel like a lot of clubs in the country will shut down, unfortunately, but there's going to be a few that stay. Comedy Store on Sunset will never go out of business until they choose to, things like that. Because you're never, ever, ever as a comedian standpoint and as a someone who's taking in the comedy, you're never going to have an experience like that. Live comedy in front of you.
It's necessary to have the people.
Yes.
It's the audience.
It truly is all about,
it's doing it at, like, there's only one person on. Yeah. I mean, there were people at that show last night. There were other comics that, like, they really wanted to see Fahim.
Yeah.
And they ended up sitting up front at this show. And they had seen my material. Like, most of my material they had seen.
Yeah.
But a lot of them were laughing because it was like other people in the room
just that energy,
responding to it, and they're laughing because these other people are laughing too. So it's when you get that club environment when it's just you're packed in there and you're laughing because other people are laughing. And it's okay to laugh at these things. It's
an energy trans. So I'm going to tell you something that I've always thought, and I've told a certain amount of people, but in my head, laughter is this is just me being an entertainer. Laughter is the highest compliment that anybody could give to somebody else. Now, let me explain that. Laughter's built into us, right? Just like smiling, just like crying, like we can't,
I don't have a ton of it myself.
well, it's what it is though, is laughter. If you make somebody laugh, you are naturally saying, your body is literally putting it into the room, I'm enjoying your company. Right? You don't really laugh with people that you hate. I mean, maybe, I don't know, you're a podcaster, maybe you do to their face, but
I don't think so.
It's hard to make, if you dislike somebody or dislike their energy or their jokes, it's hard to, like, okay, I didn't like them.
Pity laugh. Yeah.
If anything.
Yeah.
But even on stage or in conversation, to be able to have someone comfortable enough to laugh and accept your comedy, I feel like that's the biggest compliment you can give anybody in life.
For sure.
Because it's literally naturally saying, I'm enjoying your energy, right? So if you have a comedy club packed of people and there's 300 people enjoying your energy, that energy gets transferred throughout the whole room.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And so just like what you're saying, it's like your buddies may have seen your comedy a bunch of times, but in their head, they're just... the crowd.
Not in this situation. Yeah. It took me a while to realize that. Like, the more rooms you do, like you were talking about bar shows and shit like that, like the more rooms I've done, the more I realize the importance of that. Or like when jokes are doing poorly because of the environment.
You got to call yourself out. And you're good at that. You're good at that. I've seen you do clips that are funnier. And every comic will say this, including me. You do a joke, right? You need to get them on your side immediately.
Yeah.
Okay. Especially when you're no name. If you're opening and you're hosting, no one came here to see you. Yeah, your job is to be funny.
Yeah.
Once you become a headliner, I can attest to this. It truly becomes easier because people are there to see you.
Yeah.
You get the benefit of the doubt.
But you got to deliver too.
You still do because they paid $30 a ticket or whatever it was.
And they don't want to, like, you don't want to let them leave upset.
But my biggest thing that I tell young comics is, if your joke sucked, call yourself out, because that'll still win them over. I've seen you do a clip where you were like, this and this, I thought what you said was funny, and you're like, all right, that was dumb, I probably shouldn't have said that. And then the crowd erupts in laughter.
Yeah.
Because you said what they were thinking. Yeah. They were like, okay,
well,
he's
sometimes
relatable.
It's just like not for that place.
It's not for the right crowd. Yeah, that's true too.
Which I'm battling with, because, like, I don't know, Seattle's a tough...
Dude, it's not tough. You go to Tacoma, you have a way easier crowd.
Yeah.
You have more of a mix of people. Seattle is very fucking tight butthole.
Dude, they just, you walk around Seattle, there's not a lot of people smiling and laughing.
Yeah.
Like, it's a very just tense kind of, like, socially awkward place.
But that's why people like Fahim, who we were talking about, is brilliant, because people will come to see him, and he is such a pro. Like I said, I've worked with him before, but he can take any crowd and adapt. And that's what is best for comics to do.
And he's so silly on stage. Like, even if they're not with him, he does not give a shit.
No.
Which is incredible.
Yeah.
That's so, like, it's just such a good skill.
It's hard to get to that level, though. Yeah. Open micers, it's the biggest thing that pisses me off when they come on stage and they say these super dark jokes that have to do with race or like really dark. Like, they think they're Anthony Jeselnik in their head.
Yeah.
And then nobody laughs, and they get off stage, or they tell on stage, they're like, the crowd sucks, dude. They're not funny.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you need to learn as a comedian to adapt.
Yeah. Well, when we did a show together, I had a joke that, like, I was on stage, and I think it was about, like, the Black Square days on Instagram, like, after everything that happened.
Oh, yeah.
And
Like solidarity.
Yeah. And afterwards I got off, and you were like, dude, you started doing that joke. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And then I turn it at the end and you were good with it. But like, there's a certain level of like, you got to figure out how to do that stuff and make it work for both the front and the back of the room.
Yeah, absolutely. It's truly an art. You know, you have to read the room.
Yeah.
You know
And if you are that way, if that's who you are, that like, you can be a dark comic, you can be whatever, but you also got to figure out how to like, if what you're trying to do is play those types of shows, you got to figure out how to make it work.
Yeah.
And there is that mindset of like, oh, I'm not right for this place or that place or whatever. And like, so are you right for anywhere? Like what you right for?
You can't just be like, I can only do shows in this city or in this club because it's an easy club and they get me.
Yeah.
If you really want to move forward in life, you have to learn to adapt and you have to learn to like have some kind of okay jokes or turn that joke into like lessen it down a little bit. Don't make it so dark.
Yeah, just adjust it.
Yeah.
So are you kind of done with stand-up then, or what's your plan?
You know, I tell everyone the same thing. I'm still getting hit up for shows. I've still my agent will still hit me up. My comedy agent will still hit me up. Humble brag. I have 2 agents, radio and comedy. And they'll say, hey, if you're interested in this, someone just said they'll pay you this much to do this gig or even a private gig. But I just, for now, I really want to grow my stream. Like it's really hard to get followers, even with the national radio show shout outs. It's really hard to build up my stream. So I only have about 20, 30, sometimes 40 people watching at once. Now, again, the money is great. The people that I have watching are like in the community. You're building a community. So they're amazing. But I just don't have the desire yet. Part of me at times, again, misses it, but it doesn't sound fun for me to drive X amount of time, go, you know, in the green room. Okay, I'm going to do this. I think I want to do this joke. Let's see how they react to this joke, blah, blah, blah. It just takes so much mental power that I maybe I'm taking the lazy way out, but I feel like I'm still scratching the itch of entertaining through radio and now through streaming.
Yeah. What do you think the main difference is between radio and stand-up?
Well, radio is produced, at least the show we do is produced a lot more. Stand-up is more raw and
live stand-up at least.
Yeah. And you know, radio, it's like, it's hard. I don't know. It's a tough comparison because I'm still funny on radio. I still do impressions, but again, this has to also be something where people are interested and they want to give feedback. Right? Where at a comedy club, you really don't want them to heckle you and give feedback unless you ask. Most people, hecklers are like, oh, I'm helping. And you're like, no, you're not. Like, well, I saw this video, Matt Rife was fucking heckling with these ladies. I'm like, yeah, look at the beginning of the video. What did Matt go? Matt went, hey, I like your shirt. What does it say? Hey, what's your name? Hey, where? He's asking them questions because he's trying to do crowd work. It's not some drunk guy, you fucking, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So I think,
well, all of that's changing stand-up too.
Yeah.
Like it's changing audiences' expectations, thinking that like, oh, I just need to go to a show and yell shit out.
Yeah.
And then I kind of make the show, and it's like that's up to the comic. You know?
I think that is the beauty of live comedy. How we were saying earlier, like you're never gonna grow out of live comedy because when you do improv, like on my streams, right? Everybody knows that's not planned. Like you didn't know this guy. Hey, what's your name? Mike. What do you do for a living? I'm a police officer. Okay. You make a bunch of jokes about Mike. You call back to Mike 30 minutes later, cracking the crowd up. The whole world knows that Mike, I mean, there are comics out there that do plant people, but 99% of comics don't.
Yeah.
And so that's so impressive to make someone laugh and they know this wasn't a joke they've been working on for 6 months. This isn't a joke that they'd said in a special. This is like happening live right now tonight. And they want to try to help create that moment. And it doesn't really help most of the time if you're just yelling shit.
There are people that do stand up that way though. Like Ian Bagg is probably the best at like just improv crowd work type comedy.
Yeah, dude, he's a legend out here in the Northwest.
Porter.
I was just gonna fucking say Ralph Porter.
I saw him live one time,
bro. He was one of the people that helped me and told me like that. He's like, I remember one time when Arnold Schwarzenegger was my closer for a long time, and I remember when I opened a show with it. I just started writing this joke, and it was about like, imagine if Arnold Schwarzenegger was trying to teach you how to read, like he's your son, you know? Like it's a whole joke about. I can't even remember the fucking joke. It's like Arnold doing Arnold hitting on a girl at the bar and shit like that, where it's like, yeah, you're so beautiful, yeah, my tiny little flower. And like girls actually like that. Like you have a big buff guy walk up to you and go, yeah, what is your name, right? So I did this Jazz Bones, crushed. And when I got off, he was one of the first people to go, you need to switch that. Don't open with that. You need to save that for the end and do certain things. But I remember he took me under his wing for a little bit and let me go to Jazz Bones, which is like the hardest fucking.
I've done Jazz Bones.
Oh my God,
did
it is
I
so
think
bad.
the last show at Jazz Bones before it shut down again.
And it'll kick your ass, but it's good. It's
good. It's
a good ass
fucking
kicking.
awesome, dude.
But if you can get a couple laughs out of that room, you have something going. But I remember asking Ralph, I'm pacing backstage, we're like by the bathrooms. There's no backstage. Well, there is, but anyway. And I'm like, and he's like, you all right, man? I'm like, yeah, I'm just trying to think, what am I going to do? This is like my first year in comedy, right? Yeah, I don't know, man.
It's such a hard room to do.
And he's like, and I was like, what are you going to do, man? And he's like, I don't fucking know. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, I just go up there and talk. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
You're fucking crazy. And then he goes up there and he absolutely murders. Like he just is one of those people. Same as like Nate Jackson.
Yeah.
Nate Jackson maybe has one joke he wants to try. And other than that, it's sitting on a stool. Let's all get to know each other. It's like a comedy podcast live in the room. And so you're right. There are some comedians that just thrive on that. And again,
I think Nate told me a story about you actually. When you started, he booked you to do some stuff.
To do a feature.
This is how much time I got.
Bro.
What do I do? And he's like, just
bro. Nate books me for this show. I'd never featured before, but I was in that weird in between where I could do, like 14 minutes. So I was above a host, but I'd never done 20 minutes as a feature.
Yep.
And so he texted me once and he's like, can you do, how much time can you do? And I'm like, I think I have a good 12 to 13. And that's with crowd work. And he's like, I want you to feature this weekend at whatever. It was like Tai something, some small, gig.
Yeah, he used to have 1 million rooms, right?
Yeah. Oh, totally. That guy's a fucking legend, but anyway, he's brilliant. And I thought he was kidding. He texts me back and I go, well, he goes, okay, I want you to feature. And I go, well, I don't know what to do for the last 6 to 7 minutes. And he goes, ask the crowd what their favorite color is and you'll be fine. And I laugh. I send him back. I'm like, ha, 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 LOL. And then like 2 days later, he's like, all right, man, like, I just want to confirm you're down for that. And I was like, oh, you were serious?
Yeah, he was.
And he's like, yeah. And he's like, and I'm like, well, okay. And I remember I didn't say anything back. I didn't push back. And I was like so nervous for that show. I actually have a core memory of that show. And after I got off stage, I didn't ask the crowd their favorite color, but it forced me to open up and do crowd work. I was so scared to do crowd work when I first started.
For sure.
That I just stuck to my jokes. I don't care if I was getting heckled, no one's laughing. You don't derive off the game plan. You just stick to your fucking set. You have 12 minutes. But I remember that was the first time I did crowd work and I felt so accomplished and happy. And I was happy and proud that Nate pushed me because he was one of those people too. Like, even today, I haven't talked to Nate in years. I try to comment, love on his stuff here and there, but he doesn't really, he has so many people. He's such a big following. But I always credit Nate Jackson to helping me and pushing me because I'm not saying he was like a mentor, like how Ralph Porter was. But he was one of the first people that kind of like, nah, bro, I've heard about you. Like, you're going to be good. Like I've seen you, you'll be fine.
He did the same for me.
And it really forces you to get your feet wet. It's like the dad that's like, look, I'm right here. I'm going to throw you in the pool.
Yeah.
If anything happens, I'll jump in, but I'm not going to need to do that. And something kicks in. Dude, if you're a real comic.
It's that like big brother vibe that's just fucking nice.
And he's great. It's so happy to see people like him succeed, especially when you start out and you're rooting for certain people. And he was one of those people I always rooted for, he was just so good to me. And his rooms were also cutthroat. Maybe not as bad as Jazz Bones, but again, if you don't make him laugh in the first 5 minutes when he did the super funny Tacoma shows, you were fucked. Like you literally could not get them on your side.
Yeah. And I've heard Ashley Russian came on and told some stories about it.
Oh God. Ashley Russian. I went to high school with him too.
I love that's what he said.
Yeah. And no, but dude, it's again, those were the shows that you look back though, and like you have to have shit sets or you're not going to be good. It's not fucking just like any job.
It's necessary, but it sucks, dude.
Oh yeah. It is the worst though. Cause like, just like a black crowd in general, they are just the most animated and it's just amazing. It's like, I love it because you feel like you feel like you're so accepted when they got your back.
Oh, for sure.
And then when you're not funny, you're shunned. Like, I better not see you lingering around after the show because no one's going to come up and pat you on the back and say, hey, good luck out there. Like, it's like, nah, bro, this motherfucker ain't funny. I spent X amount of dollars on these seats and your ass is not a comedian.
For sure. It's very humbling.
But shout out to Nate Jackson because I probably wouldn't have, after that, I like was a feature. Like I stopped hosting a lot. And I started featuring more, and I built a couple things into my set, and so yeah, I attribute a lot of stuff to Nate Jackson.
Yeah, man, he's a homie. And shout out Bo Blast too for putting on those shows at Jazz Bones after Ralph. That I don't think they're still going, but
I haven't heard a Jazz Bone show in a while.
Yeah,
but.
I was there not too long ago, and it was super fun. But I want to be respectful of your time. You got a story for us?
I do. Am I allowed to pee real quick before the story starts?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, I
just keep this running.
It's story time. It's story time with Phantom. Yeah, it's story time. It's story time with Phantom and friends.
Gotta get you comfortable before you dive into it.
I'm so comfortable,
yeah,
dude. I'm hard.
Loose.
Oh, sorry. Hold on. So, yeah, you had asked me to come with a story, and I was trying to think, and I think my favorite story to tell. Well, there's two, if you don't mind. I'll do the quick one out of the way.
Okay.
And I'm just name dropping here, so we all look cool, including the podcast, okay? But people have always asked me, first thing, who is like the biggest celebrity you've ever met, like through radio, just ever? And I would say Justin Bieber.
Oh, wow.
And I was like my first year in radio, and this was actually, he had a huge concert at Tacoma Dome, and he was like still a baby. This was like literally 12 or 13 years ago. Like I was like very new to the show, and they thought it would be funny if they sent the new guy who's never done radio or interviews ever to interview. Like we had backstage passes and to interview Justin, and they were like, let's send the new kid. So my first ever radio interview was me and Jubal came with me, and we interviewed Justin Bieber, but it was maybe the coolest guy. He was super fucking nice. He did keep his like stunner shades on the whole time. This was back when he kind of looked like Ellen DeGeneres, right? When he was like super skinny and just like the long wavy hair, but he had his but he was super nice, and they told him I was new, and immediately he was like, you have a great radio voice. Hey, this guy needs to be, because I told him, I'm like, I'm auditioning for a job. I don't even have this gig. Like they weren't even paying me at the time. And so he was like advocating. He's like, if your bosses are listening, hey, you need to hire this kid. So he was really cool to me.
That's
and then
awesome.
The coolest thing ever was I asked him about Segways, right? I was like, I hear you like racing Segways. This is back when Segways were a thing, before hoverboards.
Yeah.
Segways, right?
Yeah,
Where you ride them like Paul Blart. And the most out of touch thing he's ever said is I was like, bro, I hear you like to race Segways. And he's like, yeah, do you have one? And I was like, no. Like, they're like thousands of dollars at the time. I'm sure they still are. And he was like, I have an extra one in my dressing room, bro. You want to race? And I was like, dude, that would be so sick. And he was like, yeah, bro, let's race our Segways. And he's like, yeah, man, just wait around here. And then after, I only have like 2 interviews left, and then you and me can race. And I'm like, this is amazing. Yeah. So we're waiting around. And after the interview, and his manager comes up and he's like, hey, are you guys all done with the interview? And I was like, yeah, I'm just waiting for Justin. We're going to race Segways. He's like, what? I was like, yeah, he said he wanted to like do some hallway like Segway races. We're going to film it for the show. And he's like, no, you're not going to do that. And I was like, what? And his manager's like, I cannot let him be racing Segways hours before his show. Like, makes sense. Like, they don't want him to break his arm or just, fall or whatever, any kind of liability. So his manager pulled out of his pocket. He goes, here's 2 free tickets to the show tonight. Like, get out of here. So I ended up giving it to, I wasn't a fan yet. I actually am now, because his like next album was actually really good. But at the time I didn't give a shit. It was like still baby, Justin. So I gave the tickets to my boss, and they gave out on site at the move-in tent. They gave it to lucky winner, and they were like, we got a pair of tickets directly from Justin's manager, whatever. And there was so much hype, and that got me into the best graces with those bosses.
Oh, for sure.
So it was like, he gave me free tickets. He was nice to me. He was talking about me on the interview, talking me up. So that's kind of boring, but I do want to shout out, like, Justin Bieber is my best friend.
Yeah, you have Bieber
I don't want to
fever.
exaggerate, but yeah, like him and I are besties. I'll introduce you guys sometime.
It kind of sucks that like he lives that life where his manager's like, yeah, Justin can't ride segways.
Yeah, no, it does suck. It does. I mean, to have somebody who's just like, oh, that's not a good idea. Sorry. And it makes, you know,
Because he's a commodity at that point.
yeah,
you know?
I mean, these are people that like his livelihood depends on their livelihood. You know what I mean? Like
Their livelihood depends on
that's
his.
what I'm trying to say. Yeah. His manager makes, you know, probably millions or if not $500,000 a year traveling with him and making these decisions
Yeah,
for
so
him.
if he gets fucked up.
Yeah. Oh,
then-
we're not making $5 million off the concert tonight. And that would have been a bonus to that in my pocket.
Yeah,
so
man.
anyway, that was a Justin Bieber story. Shout out to you, Justin. I know you're a friend of the podcast. So
Dude,
thank you.
Thank you for sure.
My weirdest story, though, people say, who's the weirdest? Like, what's the weirdest thing? Is one time Rob Schneider came to the studio to do an interview.
Okay.
And
I've heard some things about him.
he's very interesting. So, first things first, before I get into any of this, talking shit, he was very nice. He really was truly nice to everyone. He smiled, shook hands, and, you know, was like very interactive.
Yeah.
Too interactive is what I'm going to get at.
Okay.
So, first things first, before he gets there, him and his handlers have him down in the like parking garage, and our intern at the time goes down to get him, and our intern is an idiot. And I mean, this was like years ago. He's not even, but he's like, "Hey, I'm looking for Rob Schneider." Like he didn't know who Rob Schneider was, and Rob's like, "Yeah," and he goes, "You're the guy." Oh my God, was it Dodgeball? What was he in? He's in a bunch of stuff. It was like, what was the babysitter? Oh no. He was like, "Are you Rob Schneider from," and it was like a random Adam Sandler movie. It wasn't, "Are you Rob Schneider from SNL?"
Oh, yeah. No, he was, God, what was the name of that
It's-
movie?
you know what I'm trying-
Deuce Bigelow.
Yeah, but he didn't
That
even
was-
say that. It was like a random like, "Oh, you were in this Adam Sandler movie doing a cameo," because he's good friends with Adam Sandler. So
Yeah.
he puts all of his boys in his movies, which
For sure.
which is brilliant. I love that.
Yeah, like Big Daddy.
Yeah, something like that. And he's like, "Oh, you're the guy from Big Daddy." And he's like, "Yeah, whatever." And immediately is slightly high maintenance because we offer him water and he's like, "I only drink water with a certain pH balance." And we're like, "Oh, which water do you drink?" And he's like, gives us a list. "I only drink this and this." So we literally had to send our intern to the store to go buy him a bottle of water.
Sure.
So that's a little high maintenance, but he's like, he knows exactly what goes into his body. So I say that because as we're doing the interview, we are only doing like a 5 to 8 minute interview, and we're going to cut it up. We actually don't do any interviews on our show anymore unless it's like a phoner or if it's a big, like huge artist. Like if Taylor Swift wanted to come she doesn't have to do interviews, but if she wanted, you know, I think the last person we had in the studio was like maybe Macklemore, you know, Big Sean, people like that, where that's like a pretty big artist that we would love to interview. But most of the time we don't. We're a jam-packed show. We're kind of funny on our own. We don't need to fill time with interviews.
Yeah.
I think celebrity interviews are great and some shows are good at them, but that's not our show.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he like tells us this whole story about how he's so rich now, he bought a lab, a scientific lab, and he he pays a couple of employees to test everything he eats. And I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, there's crazy shit in everything. I have my water tested. I have my, like, if I'm going to eat salmon, I'll buy it at the store and I'll take a bit and I want to see how much mercury is in it. I want to see like all this kinds of shit." And he even said himself, he's like, "This is what happens when you have too much money." Like I literally was like, "I'm going to spend $1 million on buy a lab." Like, I'm like, "What?" And so then he talks about his whole tea regimen. And he makes tea and he loves tea and he busts out a giant box of tea. And he's like, "Does anybody want to try white tea?" And we're like, "Sure." He has a fucking teapot. He has everything.
All of it with him?
All of it with him in a bag. And we're like, "You bring a tea kit? Like, what is going on here?" And he gets the special bottle of water that the intern bought him. He's pouring it in. So everyone has like special water, special white tea that's very rare. Talks about the whole process. So we're like done with the interview and he will not leave. Like he won't leave the studio. We're like, "Okay, well, that was fun, right?" He's like, "Yeah. What are we doing next?" And we're like, "Oh, I think we're actually done." We're like looking in the other room for the producers. Like, "Yeah, I think we're done." The producer's trying to help us and doing this.
Yeah.
And we're like, yeah. You know, producer says we got everything we need, man. Well, thank you. And he's like, "Well, can I tell you guys a story real quick before I go?" And we're like, okay, sure, yeah. You know, you're not going to kick Rob Schneider out. He's still a really big fucking deal. And this is what I'm trying to get at. He tells us a story, and he says,
"Is this on air?"
Okay, so this was being taped to air.
Okay.
So I think we edited this all out.
Pre-recorded.
Yeah, thank goodness, right? Because he did do like 5 minutes live, and then he wanted to talk. We're like, okay, hit record, right?
It's gonna be a bomb. I can already tell.
He tells us a story. He's like, I had a buddy once who was sitting down in his couch, and all of a sudden, this cat comes across his legs and is meowing like crazy, like a feral cat, just these loud meows. But my buddy doesn't own a cat, and we're like, huh? And he's like, and this cat won't leave him alone, and it's purring, and it's all on his legs, and he's trying to think what's going on with this cat. And then all of a sudden, the cat bites him, and he's like, ouch! And so he's trying to let the cat out. The cat starts to like claw at him, and like is like aggressively meowing, like it's like not an attack, but it's a very aggressive, like, dude, get the fuck off me, cat. He goes, and then the cat jumped up on his leg. So and Rob is like laughing this whole time, by the way. He's like, and so he starts strangling the cat, right? And the cat's going, meow, and my buddy is struggling with this cat, and he's strangling it until the cat stops moving, right? And literally the cat is just motionless.
He's laughing.
And we're like, where's the funny part in this? Yeah, he's laughing. And he goes, and here's the thing. So then he's looking at the cat going, oh shoot, now I need to get rid of this cat. And then all of a sudden he sees the stomach start moving. And the stomach is moving more and more. And he realizes the cat's pregnant. And he's cracking up, and all of us are fucking horrified, bro. We're like, oh, and I'm the laugh guy, so I'm like trying to pity laugh, which normally I don't need to. But I'm like, oh, crazy Rob Schneider. That's a crazy story. And he's like, and apparently he tried to take it to the vet, or he dropped it off. But yeah, apparently the cat was like feral and pregnant and was like in heat or whatever, all these things. And so, yeah, man, my buddy ended up killing a pregnant cat, and it was just crazy. And we were like horrified, right? So Brooke is trying to get him out of the studio now, right? We're like, okay, we don't think anything else he's gonna say is gonna be really contributional to the show. So literally Brooke's like, hey, follow me. Let me show you like the rest of the studios, right? So he has to pack up his tea kit and shit. Yeah. And he gets all of his stuff together.
Oh yeah, the cat's ashes were in this tea, by the way. You know, like all you're just horrified.
And we're like, what the fuck was that? So we let him go, right? Brooke gives him the tour and goes, okay, well, I got to go back in, Rob, but you have a great day. Goodbye. And we're trying to do the trivia game next. And we're looking, and the little rectangular window on studio doors that you can kind of peek in.
Yeah.
Rob Schneider's peeking in kind of like, can I come back in, right? And so we have to ignore Rob Schneider at this point. We're like, don't nobody look at him. Just he's gonna.
There's no way this was a bit, right?
No.
Like okay.
Or maybe if it was for his own fucking like.
That's what
I'm
I
so
mean.
rich now. Maybe I can
Which
get away with
would
this.
be funny if like he's just like, how uncomfortable can I make radio people?
So here's the last part of the story. That doesn't end there, right? Then he's wandering around. We have a giant like clear glass room where all the meetings take place for like any corporate meeting, corporates in town. We have serious meetings, sales meetings are in there. It's a big room. And it's like, you can see it on your exit. So we heard back after this, apparently on his way out, he's walking by, there's a sales meeting. So there's like 20 people, all salespeople. These are not radio personalities. These are like serious, the business people. And he walks by, he sees a full room, and he opens the door and he's like, hey everyone, why the serious faces? You guys are doing radio. You should be all smiling, having a good time. And the whole room is like, is that Rob Schneider? Like, what the fuck is going on right now? And he's like, all right, well, bye. I guess he took a couple pictures. Like, he just interrupted our sales meeting and was like, hi, I'm Rob Schneider. Why is no one smiling in this room? And again, his energy was great. He was having a good time, but it was so like awkward, weird, you know? Like we were like, that wasn't necessarily fun. But at the same time, I'm never going to forget everything that just happened. The hour that Rob Schneider like trolled our whole radio station. And then apparently he left, and you know, now I see him in his like super crazy far right wing, you know, he started to get into stuff like that too, but you know, we're not a political show, so we didn't really go down that road, but no, it's really funny. And again, it's one of those things where he was nice. I think he got upset at me because I made a couple of jokes like off of what he was saying, like kind of making fun of him, like, oh yeah, because everybody needs like a personal tea maker, right?
Yeah.
And a whatever.
Yeah.
And then he's like, hey, I know you're trying to kid, but I'm being serious about this.
This is very important.
And I'm like, oh, no, I'm sorry, Rob, like, blah, blah, blah. And so he wasn't like rolling with my punches very much.
Yeah.
But again, he wasn't disrespectful or rude.
Should have asked him if he tested the cat. You know?
He's like,
He ate that cat, you
I
know?
found it, yeah, but I'm like, and the fact that he was laughing the whole time, I'm like, what is like, it's just random, but it's not funny. You know?
What would be funny about that?
I don't know. I think he just thought it's like the irony of like a random fucking feral cat sneaking into someone's house. And then my buddy strangled it to death. Isn't that I don't know. I don't know what the funny
that's
is.
just Asperger's or something.
Something weird,
like,
bro. Yeah, something weird. So anyway, shout out to Rob Schneider. You're probably the most memorable interview of my life. And again, he was nice to everyone. He was almost too nice. It was like bugging everybody.
Yeah.
He didn't want to leave.
He's gonna like comment on this.
Yeah, most artists come in and they want to get in and out as soon as they
For
can.
sure.
Like
He was like, no, I'm here to stay.
yeah, he's like, no, you guys, I got you. Like, what's up? You want more from me? And we're like, no, we're good. And it's like, no, I'm gonna give you more. And we're like, oh, okay, Rob Schneider.
He was available for interview for a reason.
Yeah, that's true, right? That's true. That's why Adam Sandler wasn't available.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's my funny story.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. That was great. Before we go, anything you want to plug? Like, where can people find your stuff? I know
Yeah. So follow me on Twitch and Kick. I'm at Hilarious Jose on both. I really need help with followers on Kick because it's also like a smaller streaming site.
Yep.
But it's growing and I'm really happy to be a part of it. So kick.com/Hilarious Jose. Give me a follow. You can come on. The thing that I tell people is you have access to me that most people don't. I'm live for a couple hours, 4 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. I play with subscribers on Saturdays. So if you spend $5, become a subscriber, we can literally play Fortnite together, or I'll play with your friend or your kids. Some people go, my kid's 12. It's an 18 and older stream, so we swear and whatever. But, you know, randomly people will go, oh my God, it means so much if you would play one game of Fortnite with my son. We'll go, okay. And then we'll have like a wholesome stream where I'm not swearing and whatever. But the thing I like about that is people can ask me questions about the show. You know, like they can literally go, hey, man, they can ask me things that you ask. Hey, what's your favorite thing to do on the show? Hey, you know, a lot of people like to ask what happened to Jubal. That's like a big thing. Or, hey, you know, who's your favorite co-host? You know, just whatever silly shit. And you can request impressions. And some people love Clover or Rolando or a lot of, I have like 12 or 14 different characters I've done on the air. So you can request all of those and I will do impressions live for you and improv. So yeah, follow me on Twitch and Kick, and definitely listen to Brooke and Jeffrey in the morning. Follow us on all socials. Our TikTok is blowing up. But yeah, that's all my stuff. I may be doing, there's a rumor that my agent has been getting to me about. They've asked like 3 or 4 times how it would work, but I may have another Jose and Friends show, which if that's the case, of course, if I have room for you, I'll bring you on. But the Muckleshoot Casino has actually been asking me to come out.
Yeah.
And so it's funny because I'm always like, no, I'm good. People go, hey, would you come and do our show? You know, even the comedy clubs, like Tacoma my comedy agent owns Tacoma Comedy Club and all these other clubs. And he's always like, you know, you're always welcome. It's your home club. We love you, blah, blah, blah. And we always have a lot of fans when I do shows that come out because of the radio and stuff.
For sure.
But it's funny because I'm always like, no, thanks. Well, when a casino asks you to perform and they start flashing money at you because it's a fucking money-making industry, then I'm like, maybe I could go and do 10 minutes and dust off the web.
Be fun,
yeah,
dude.
like it's like they want to pay me like a headliner just to do the hosting gig. So if that becomes into fruition, I always like to hook up my friends because it's hard. Jubal did that for me. Nate Jackson did that for me. Everybody needs somebody who can get you into gigs like theaters and casinos that normally you wouldn't be in before. I mean, I did a gig with Jubal once where I was the feature and I didn't see the light. I ended up doing 45 minutes as his feature. Damn. Drunk, but it was fun. It was so fun. And then he went on stage and then the next year they booked me and they didn't book him. They said, hey, we'd like to have you headline. You would, you know, people were saying how great you were and stuff. So you never know who else is going to notice you, you know, like the casino could have another comedy night and they'll hit you up. Hey, that Adam guy was really funny kind of thing. So that may be coming later in the year. But yeah, just follow me on socials at Hilarious Jose everywhere.
Dude, thank you for coming on.
Dude, thanks
Really
for having me.
appreciate it.
I love your podcast, brother.
Thank you so much,
I'm
man.
honored.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to rate and review us. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure to hit that notifications bell so you don't miss our upcoming content. And then we are on Patreon, patreon.com/FNFpod. As always, follow us on Instagram at FNFpod. And we are going to leave you with Jaga.
I just make the waves, I don't write them. I can hear the lyrics in my spirit as I write them. Why you wanna walk and talk just like them? I can't get caught up in all the hype and the excitement. I just make the waves, I don't write them. I can hear the lyrics in my spirit as I write them. Why you wanna walk and talk just like them? I can't get caught up in all the hype and the excitement. My wave pool, my wave pool. Welcome to 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 my wave pool, my wave pool.